All right, everyone. California is the land of fruits and nuts, and San Francisco definitely takes the cake there. The San Francisco area is basically the melting pot of shitty ideas within the country. It's a poo overrun city where people shit out in the open, and I don't know. It's like Haight-Ashbury on steroids, except without the touristy-ness, because it's so nasty that nobody even wants to visit it. It's become so goddamn expensive. I've got a reasonable income, but if I were in San Francisco, I'd have to live in a tent with 5 other people. So it's a big problem. San Francisco is a cesspit. But now one of their supervisors there, like one of their city whatever they have, has introduced what is called the Caren Act. And I'm not shitting you. When I first saw this, I thought it was a joke. Somebody sent it to me via Twitter DM this morning, and I'm like, well, this is probably from the Babylon Bee or something. It's an Onion article. It's actually from local news and it's real, which makes it 10 times funnier. It's like, I keep seeing this, like satire and real life now are so close together, you really have to dig in order to do fact-checking. It's becoming difficult. I'm going to have to hire someone to do fact-checking for me. It won't be a third party like Snopes, trust me. But the Caren Act, the idea is that they're going to start prosecuting people for calling the cops if the call involves a potential crime conducted by a racial minority, which in San Francisco, I'm pretty sure that white people would be a minority, ironically enough, at this point. If you call the cops and they suspect racial motive, they can charge you with that. Would this hold up to constitutional scrutiny? I'm not sure. Will it be adopted by the city of San Francisco? Maybe. It's not clear whether there's any particular force behind this, like a larger movement, or whether this is sort of like, you get all of the time, especially at the local level, you get nutty proposals, absurdism, like basically a satire of the political complex, by making proposals that are obviously obtuse and make no sense, or they kind of sort of make sense, but you know that they're doomed. I remember famously, like Jello Biafra, who's a punk rocker, back in the day. Now he's an old dude. It's funny to say. He at one point he ran on a progressive platform, or the Green Party or something, and one of his proposals was to allow people to squat in empty buildings, like to decriminalize squatting in abandoned factories and stuff. The proposal kind of sort of makes sense. You get a homeless problem. You've got a housing crisis. People need something over their head. You don't have to pay for it like you would a homeless shelter. And just let them go squat in the factory or something. It was obviously not going to be actually taken up, though, as a serious issue, and I think he lost that particular election, if I remember correctly. I think that was in California. Wouldn't be surprised, anyway. But anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if it does gain some momentum. It's funny, they call it the Caren Act. I'm sure that wasn't by mistake. I'm sure that this is not coincidental. I'm sure that this was on purpose. The term Caren has begun to have a far-right connotation now. Like, the left is trying to astroturf as though Caren only applies specifically to right-wing white women. No, it applies basically to the soccer mom and box wine crowd, people who tend to complain about a lot of things, they're busybodies and stuff. In California, they're going to tend to be liberal. The state's so far left, trust me. It's basically only the difference between Biden liberal Caren and the Bernie fan. That's basically the only difference. What you consider conservatives out in California, in most of the more developed parts of the state, really aren't conservatives at all, for example. They'd be considered Biden liberals. His gun control plan is considered moderate for a lot of Californians' purposes. I'll be covering that as well tomorrow. This is so nutty. But yeah, it's funny. I don't think it's meant to be absurdism, though. I think it's meant to be serious, and so people in San Francisco can look forward to not being able to call the police if they happen to have the wrong skin color. I would think that this blatantly violates equal protection under the law. Like, the idea that a person, because they're of a different race than the person they're calling about, would be suspected to have a racial motive. The problem is that what we've seen is that, not just in the legal system, but in the extra-legal sense, what they'll do is, like, if someone is involved, like with defending themselves against BLM, they immediately go back to their whole social media history and they try to find like one example of them saying something off color. And then they say, aha, see, they're a racist. That's why they were there on their front lawn defending their house. Like they did that with the Ken and Caren there in St. Louis. These people, they had no racial motivation. Apparently, according, by the way, update on that, according to their allegation, they were told straight up by the city that the cops wouldn't come if called. and that people basically, and that basically a group of people were planning to attack their little village, like literally vandalize it, and so they decided to defend their property. I don't know if they've been charged with anything yet. They shouldn't be. They didn't do anything wrong other than poor trigger discipline at a couple moments from that guy's wife. It's pretty funny. By the way, people pointing out they're not base boomers because they're too young. I don't know. They look old enough to be like marginal boomers, at least older Gen X or something like that. But San Francisco, definitely a place I would never want to be in. You know, the smell must be overwhelming. I mean, it must smell like Chaz after, you know, vegan burrito night. By the way, it was funny because when Chaz was being dismantled, they had all sorts of footage and the cops were like practically in hazmat suits. Can you imagine? When you look at the squalor that was left behind by these people who clearly never cleaned their room or their cock, so they don't know how to clean up after themselves. The smell must have been pretty bad. I feel really sorry for local business owners. They're going to have to gas out their storefronts for weeks before they're able to do anything. Smart idea, gas it out with patchouli or nag champa or something and literally like make a Chaz Memorial head shop. Oh, you'll make lots of money. Tourists will come in from everywhere. As long as you've got private security making sure that the rioters don't come back, everything will be fine. You can recoup your loss and then some. Open suggestion to all business owners in that area. And you should have a Chaz Memorial Garden too. Like, get rid of that park anyway, because it's not very impressive. It's basically just grass. Just tear it up and have a farm and garden thing, like a community garden, and call it the Chaz Memorial Garden. And every year you can burn an Antifa effigy or something like that as a remembrance of the time that your businesses were smashed up and you were basically blackmailed by a bunch of rioting thugs while your mayor did absolutely nothing to stop them. That's about all. Peace out.